Alright, this is going to be a video that is basically on critical reasoning. This is my second critical reasoning video, and I'll do a few of these, then I'll move on to actual logic. In this video, I want to go about talking about these three kinds of arguments and reasonings. There's deductive, inductive, and abductive. First, we have deductive, which is the main one that we like. If you take a class in logic or in critical reasoning, you will most likely deal with deductive logic or deductive reasoning. What is this? This is the kind of argument or reasoning where the premises are general and you move on towards a more specific conclusion. For instance, we have the argument premise 1, all men are mortal. I have this here. This is predicate logic. I don't know if you want me to go into that yet, but I will later. Number 2, Socrates is a man. And the conclusion, therefore, Socrates is mortal. So, premise 1, all men are mortal. That's a very general claim about all kinds of men. Number 2, Socrates is a man. That's a very general claim about one person. And then we move towards, therefore, Socrates is mortal, which is a more specific conclusion about this man, Socrates. Then we have basically tests for these kinds of arguments, which is validity. A argument is valid if it is not possible for there to be true premises and a false conclusion. Basically, if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. I say that because a teacher I had on this would make us say that like pretty much like a chant or mantra or whatever. And we do that by truth tables, which I will do soon, once I get this critical reasoning stuff out of the way. A truth table is like, we will take a argument, take its, let's say we have A, B, and C in it, put that out, and we'll put the truth values, say, if all three of them are true, then we'll have the truth value for the whole, for each proposition in C, and if we have any of those that end up being true premises and a false conclusion, then we find that this is an invalid argument. Soundness, on the other hand, is where a argument is valid and it has true premises. Basically, it is valid and it has true premises. Thus, all of them are true. All of the premises and the conclusion are true. Induction. Going on this very briefly. Induction is the kind of argument that is used very much so in science. Because in science, we go about to make a inference about the world, and we kind of use these specific things that we find, let's say specific data, and make more general hypotheses. And we have for instance, one kind of inductive argument is the argument from analogy. If you want to learn about the problem of induction, see Hume, and there's various logical developments on this, on the idea of the problem of induction. I've talked about it somewhat here on this channel. So I'll give you one kind of argument. This is the argument from analogy. I've kind of written it out in predicate logic here, but I'll kind of say it out the way it's supposed to be. For a certain x, if x has p and q, then it has a, b, and c. Then x has p. If x has p, then it has a new property I. Then we have then that would also mean by the argument from analogy that Q also has I. Now the test for these is strength. It's saying that if the premises are true, it is not likely that the conclusion is false. This is not as much like validity, because you can't always. It's not always the case. You could have a. It could be otherwise than this. It's not like down to a specific science with induction. But you can kind of figure out a strong argument once you have one. Now then, the third one is abduction, which is a fancy name for inference to best explanation. This was basically brought up by Charles Sanders Peirce, and it's kind of basically saying that if we have a certain we go from a certain observation to a certain hypothesis because it is the best explanation for these observations that we have. For instance, we have the philosopher of religion, Roman Collins, who has a teleological argument, a scientific one, for the existence of God. And he gives out various scientific facts for fine-tuning, that the universe was fine-tuned for life to be here. And he kind of goes from that argument to say that from fine-tuning, from this observational data, the best explanation is that God fine-tuned it with these dials or whatever, as a metaphor, or hit a dartboard and hit the bullseye. It's basically just going from observation to explaining evidence, inferring A as the explanation for Q, having a certain aberrant observational data Q, and saying that the best observation we have is A. But the whole big thing here is that there could be this kind of relates to divisibility, which is something that is used by philosophers like William P. Alston, which is that basically this could be otherwise. New discoveries could lead to this being false. I'll probably do some more critical reasoning stuff, so that hopefully I can move on to logic. This is just stuff I want to get out of the way, so I can move on towards doing actual logic. Thanks.